staff report.
Good morning. For the record, Edie Adams, staff to the committee. House Bill 1902 addresses firearms transfers and permits to purchase firearms, and is similar to House Bill 1143 that this committee heard last session. Under House Bill 1920, a dealer may not transfer a firearm to a purchaser or transferee until the person produces a valid permit to purchase firearms. The current law requirement that a purchaser must provide the dealer with proof of completion of a recognized firearm safety program is removed, and instead that is made a requirement for obtaining a permit to purchase. A person may apply for the permit with the Washington State Patrol Firearms Background Check Program. The Washington State Patrol must conduct a fingerprint-based background check to determine the applicant's eligibility. Application and eligibility requirements are established. The required firearm safety training program must be certified by the State Patrol as meeting statutory requirements, and live fire shooting exercises are added as a required component of the training program. The State Patrol must either issue or deny a license within 30 days of application or within 60 days if the applicant doesn't have a valid Washington ID or hasn't lived in the state for the previous 90 days. If the permit is denied, the State Patrol must send the applicant a notice stating the specific reasons for the denial, and the applicant may petition a court for an order directing the State Patrol to issue a permit that was wrongfully denied. Permit is valid for 5 years and may be renewed for a successive 5-year period. The fee for an original or renewal permit is $28, which may be adjusted by the State Patrol in an amount to cover the cost of the program. In addition, an applicant for an original permit must pay any fingerprint processing fee imposed by the local law enforcement agency taking the prints. Circumstances that require revocation of a permit to purchase firearm, as well as revocation procedures, are provided, and the State Patrol is directed to develop procedures to annually verify that a person who has been issued a permit remains eligible. The bill also makes numerous changes to a variety of provisions of law to incorporate permits to purchase, and those are listed in the bill analysis. And it addresses background check procedures when a person applying for the transfer of a firearm has outstanding warrants, open criminal charges, or pending criminal or civil commitment proceedings. That concludes my remarks.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, thank you for hearing me today. I'm John Knowles. I'm the elected sheriff of Spokane County here in the great state of Washington. Some of our panelists earlier spoke about Dr. King. I participated in our march here in Spokane yesterday to honor the memory of Dr. King and all he contributed to this great country. Talking about House Bill 1902, which I am here to testify in opposition to today, I'd like you to imagine a country or a state in which Dr. King, prior to utilizing and taking advantage of his First Amendment right to freedom of speech, would have to get a permit from his government before he goes out and exercises that speech. Where Dr. King would have to go to a training class where the government taught him what was appropriate to speak of and what not to speak of before he could go out and demonstrate. House Bill 1902 is doing exactly that for the Second Amendment here in the United States of America. It should not be taken lightly. I know one of our earlier panelists talked about having to get a license to practice medicine, having a license to be a cosmetologist. Practicing medicine and practicing cosmetology are not constitutional God-given rights. The right to keep and bear arms is, and there's a distinct difference. I would also caution the members of this committee about listening to folks who want to talk about correlational data to what these laws do as opposed to causational data as far as preventing violence. House Bill 1902 will accomplish nothing in making our communities safer, nothing making this state safer. If we want to prevent youth suicide and violence, we need to start having the legislature invest in mental health treatment and substance use treatment. That is legislation that will make a difference in our communities, not violating people's constitutional rights. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair Taylor, Ranking Member Walsh, and members of the committee. For the record, my name is John Nelson, and I am here speaking in strong opposition to House Bill 1902. As a husband, son, father, veteran, and Black man, I find it quite ironic that we are speaking about bills that restrict our civil rights on and around the day where we celebrate the life of Dr. King, who himself was not allowed to own firearms. Firearms ownership is a constitutional right. And this bill is clearly unconstitutional, even though it has been cleverly written not to appear so under the guise of being common sense policy, while lacking any crime statistics to support it or directly address actual criminality. The constitutionality of the ownership of and carrying of firearms continues to be affirmed and reaffirmed by multiple decisions from the Supreme Court, for example, McDonald, Heller, Bruin, etc., and the majority of the lower courts across the United States. House Bill 1902 is in direct defiance of the 2022 Supreme Court decision in New York State Rifle and Pistol Association versus Bruin. It should also be noted that Oregon Ballot Measure 114 and the Maryland pre-purchase licensing agreements have both been recently struck down as unconstitutional. House Bill 1902 follows these same bills' language. The goal of House Bill 1902 is not written to enhance public safety, but rather to make it more burdensome and expensive for law-abiding citizens to exercise their constitutionally protected Second Amendment rights. This is further evidenced by the lack of an exemption for Washington CPL holders. This bill will, let me say that again, this bill will have a detrimental effect on the safety of all Washingtonians, but those negative effects will be far worse for our minority and marginalized communities, especially those women suffering from domestic violence. My wife, daughters, and sisters should be able to legally purchase firearms without having to get a pre-purchasing license before they access an already constitutional and unalienable right. A right delayed is a right denied, and forcing Washingtonians to get permission to access their constitutional rights is both abhorrent and criminal.
Thank you so very much. Thank you so very much for your testimony.
Domestic violence.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jane Milhounds. I'm from Pierce County. I speak in opposition to House Bill 1902. I'm sitting before you as a survivor of a horrific home invasion by two men. Can you fight two men with your hands? It is a woman's right to protect herself with firearms because it levels the fight between her and her attackers. It gives her a chance to protect her children. Because of this, I became a certified firearm instructor to do something positive. Every year I donate hundreds of hours teaching women how to use personal protection so that they can survive. The firearm, because I donate time, my classes are very affordable. My students are predominantly widows between the age of 60 and 90, many on fixed incomes. I have single moms. And firearm courses in the Puget Sound run about 100 to 150 an hour. That's very unattainable for the most vulnerable that we're trying to protect. These are the people that are victims of crime. And yet we have to ask permission from you to purchase personal protection. This law does nothing to address the people that actually commit the crimes. How are you going to instill this law in people who collect from the black market, drug deals, straw purchases, and other illegal means? It was ineffective. This bill also, with the permit, is a type of gun registry and is subject to public disclosure inspections according to the Washington State Attorney General's office. Women feel violated because her information will be made public. So I just ask that you please punish criminals and not us law-abiding women who just want the ability to protect ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Taylor. For the record, Matt Sterling, staff to the committee. House Bill 1903 relates to the reporting of lost or stolen firearms. As background, under current law, if a person is prohibited from possessing a firearm and they access a firearm as a result of an unlawful entry, the unauthorized access or theft of the firearm must be reported to a local law enforcement agency within 5 days of when the victim of the unlawful entry knew or reasonably should have known that the firearm had been taken. Failure to report that access or theft constitutes a crime of community endangerment. House Bill 1903 would require an owner or person lawfully in possession of a firearm who suffers a loss or theft of a firearm to report that loss or theft to local law enforcement within 24 hours after the person first discovered the loss or theft. The report must include the firearm's caliber, make, model, manufacturer, and serial number, any distinguishing number or identification mark, and the circumstances of the loss or theft. A law enforcement agency that receives a report of a lost or stolen firearm must enter the firearm's caliber, make, model, manufacturer, and serial number and distinguishing number or identification marks on the firearm into the National Crime Information Center database. Any person who fails to report a lost or stolen firearm commits a civil infraction and is subject to a monetary penalty of up to $1,000. For this bill, a fiscal note was not requested.
For taking my comments. My name is Brian Keelan. I'm a retiree living here in the city of Olympia. I am representing the Washington State Rifle and Pistol Association and the Tacoma Rifle and Revolver Club of University Place. The WSRPA's mission is to foster and support the shooting sports in Washington State, and we sanction and schedule championships in pistol, rifle, small bore, and air rifle disciplines. We support junior programs around the state, as does the Tacoma Rifle and Revolver Club. We urge your vote against 1903 for the following reasons. House Bill 1903 will do nothing to promote gun safety, and no one on this committee has offered any information to suggest that this is the case. And I believe if this law is passed, it would be used against poor people and minorities more than it would be on the middle class. The fiscal impact of this bill has not been given any research, so we don't know what it would cost. We recommend that if you want to control firearm theft, you increase jail time for these crimes and jail the lawbreakers. Please do not put the onus of these crimes on those that are legal, law-abiding firearm owners that have had their firearms stolen. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, Representatives. For the record, I'm John Brzezinski, staff to the committee. House Bill 2118 relates to firearms dealer licensing. As background, Washington currently requires firearms dealers to be licensed and registered, and no dealer may sell or transfer any firearm or ammunition without being licensed. State law establishes a number of conditions on dealer licenses. In the interest of time, I'll refer you to the bill analysis for more detailed background on existing requirements for licensing and provide you with a brief summary of the bill's major provisions. First, the bill requires dealer employees to be 21 or older and requires they undergo fingerprinting and a background check prior to selling or transferring any firearms. Second, the bill requires dealers install various security features on their business premises, including physical barriers designed to prevent unauthorized entry and both alarm and surveillance systems that meet specified minimums. Third, the bill requires firearms to be securely stored. During business hours, firearms must be secured in a manner to prevent customers and others from accessing or using them, except when they are being shown to a customer, repaired, or worked on. Outside business hours, firearms must be secured in a fireproof safe, vault, or secured or locked area designated in the business license. Fourth, the bill requires dealers to respond to law enforcement requests within 24 hours and to notify law enforcement of any loss, theft, or unlawful transfer within 24 hours, and to provide an annual report to the Washington Attorney General. Fifth, the bill requires dealers to maintain specified records of purchase, sale, and inventory, and to maintain such records on paper or electronically in a secure container or electronic backup, and to make available such records to law enforcement and manufacturers. Sixth, the bill requires dealers to carry a general liability insurance policy providing at least $1 million of coverage per incident. Finally, the bill requires dealers to certify to their licensing authority in writing and under penalty of perjury that they have complied with each license requirement. A fiscal note has been requested. That concludes my remarks.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for having me back. My name is Austin Harlan. I am the owner of The Range in Yakima, and I am a board member of the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. I'm a bit surprised that we are back here so quickly with a number of laws just going into effect a couple weeks ago. I would think that we would want to see how those play out before we start adding more things. I had an entire speech planned for this, but I had an experience last night that made me change my thought process. I pulled into Safeway last night. We were going to get some snacks for the hotel, and there was a lady sitting there in her car slamming heroin. By herself, without her kids, without her family. All by herself. Do you know the pain and turmoil that it takes for somebody to end up there by themselves, running from their kids just to feel again? I do. I do. My mother did. She committed suicide after her 4th attempt. She shot herself. Her final attempt was death by overdose. My business partner and friend committed suicide last week. Do I blame the gun? Absolutely not. It's a tool. We are the problem. We are the problem. We must look at ourselves and change the behavior that is leading to the death and destruction that you see on the streets. It's time to stop. It's time to stop, people. Come on. The gun has nothing to fucking do with it. Sorry for my language. We must look at ourselves and change our behavior. Happiness. Your red tie makes you look very strong and confident. Your earrings are very beautiful with your outfit, and your hair and your skin tone is very beautiful. Spread happiness, spread joy, give people life. Stop talking about the gun. The gun doesn't mean anything. Stop violence.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Michael Finley, and I'm with the National Shooting Sports Foundation. We're the National Trade Association for FFLs, manufacturers, and ranges. I'm here in strong opposition to this bill. Representative Wallen mentioned a couple of goals that they have with this bill. We share those goals. Making sure that inventory is protected, making sure that unauthorized access to firearms does not occur, especially to prohibited folks, making sure that liability insurance is there, and making sure that theft or firearms that end up in crimes does not come from our FFLs. A couple stats that I want to give you is this bill is essentially a solution in search of a problem. Out of all the firearm thefts in the United States per year, 0.17 come from FFLs. We are highly regulated at the federal level. A ATF agent, your DO, can essentially revoke your license at any point in time. We have a lot of problems with this bill, but one of the things is it is duplicative and is cost prohibitive. By our calculations, for 6 years of video on record at any point of time for an average 2,000 to 3,000 square foot store that would require 12 cameras, of this bill would require nearly 4,000 terabits of space. To put that in perspective for you, the cost over 5 years, not 6 years, because they don't calculate that high, would be $3.3 million per store just to comply with this bill. It's absolutely going to put out every dealer in the state, and that's not a sensationalistic thing to say. Additionally, a lot of the things are duplicative within this bill. We have requirements within 20 to 48 hours. It's actually written as when a firearm is known to be lost or stolen from an FFL, you must report it to ATF, which starts the tracing process. There's so many, 90 seconds isn't enough time, but through every one of these things, it is either covered by federal law or it doesn't do anything to help make a store more protected and help make sure that the firearms don't get into the bloodstream in terms of robberies, in terms of thefts. But we want to throw out an olive branch to all of you. Come out to our stores. You're going to hear from FFLs here today that are going to show you their particular plans. And it's not a one-size-fits-all. There are different needs per different space. So if we're truly trying to make sure that firearms aren't being stolen from FFLs and being part of crimes, come with us, work with us. We want to work with you.
Good morning. My name is Heidi Lee, co-owner of Sporting Systems. I'm the person standing behind you at the local coffee shop and the chair next to you at the hair salon. Our grandkids play on the same soccer team. Not many, if any of you, have been to your local gun store, but instead have perceived an opinion of who I am. Speaking industry-wide, we have federal standards to adhere to and numerous safety protocols already in place, such as bollards, barred windows and doors, treated glass panes, 24/7 security alarms with motion detectors and glass break sensors, additional outdoor lighting, and close relationships with our local LEOs, and other systems I cannot discuss for our own security. I've spent a decade building a responsible and lawful firearms store, as many others have. Our staff are trained to work closely with every customer, ensuring a legal transaction occurs. We have an occupancy limit based off the staff on hand to provide a comfortably secure environment. Staff are also trained to listen listen and observe in their interactions and identify key indicators of a straw purchase. In my 10 years of business, though, I've never had a firearm stolen, nor have any walked out the door by themselves after business hours. As we saw from the soft launch of WSP Safe System, state recommendations have conflicted with federal requirements, putting FFLs in a limbo of compliance. House Bill 2118 is not financially obtainable for small businesses like mine. All your mom and pop shops are slowly closing. The sense of community and safety is being replaced by criminals and drug-induced zombies. But I'll continue to show up for every hearing. I'm not going anywhere. I'd rather fail with honor than succeed by fraud. I urge a no vote on House Bill 2118.